Thank you, Carl. I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to the Pipeline Safety Trust for allowing us to come here today and present our stories. My heart goes out to the San Bruno residents. That's a really hard act to follow. We have been so blessed to not have any immediate fatalities to our spill. We do not know what the long-time story will be to that, and I pray that it doesn't resemble what their numbers were. I am a 32-year resident of Ceresco, Michigan, a small village, rural village, 6 miles west of Marshall, Michigan. I'm also a mom, grandma, event planner, and cancer patient. Unlike many of the presenters here today, I'm not an expert. So if you see me shaking, it's because this is not my forte. Together with my husband, Ken, we own a carpet store. With over 800 feet of combined frontage on the Kalamazoo River, our residence is located on the river's south bank, just above or below the Ceresco Dam, and our business property is located on the north bank, immediately above the dam. On July 25, our lives and that of many other residents and business owners along a creek in Marshall, Michigan, as well as some 40 miles of the Kalamazoo River, changed forever. As the day started as an ordinary day, I left for Battle Creek for work at 7:30 a.m., and as I pulled out of the driveway and crossed over the bridge, there was a strong smell, and I thought it was asphalt. A few houses up the road, I noticed that my neighbors were putting on a new roof. I know, that's silly, but I attributed that smell to that construction. My husband opened the carpet store that day, and a little later in the afternoon, he left with my grandson to run some errands. We met for dinner about 6 o'clock and came back into Ceresco, and the smell was so strong that a half a mile away, it was burning our eyes and our throats as we drove into town. The 12-mile road bridge over the river was so full of people that we could not drive across it. But as we did, we noticed what everybody was looking at, a black river. The environmental program specialist for the city of Marshall, an acquaintance of mine, happened to be at the dam as a member of the newly formed Unified Command Team. She shared with us that Enbridge 6B pipeline had broke earlier that day, and knowing I was a cancer patient, strongly advised me to get in the house and close all the windows, turn on the air, because in her words, this is bad. The next evening was a Ceresco Neighborhood Watch meeting, so I extended an invitation to her as one of the block captains for that group, and asked Enbridge and the Unified Command to attend. They accepted, and a handful of agency representatives were on hand to provide hotline numbers, answer questions and concerns about our oiled animals, medical issues, evacuations, our well water, and to discuss the status of the spill. With residents reporting burning eyes, coughing, sore throats, severe headaches, nausea, diarrhea, this would be the first of many public meetings where short-term exposure to benzene was discussed by the local health department. We were told that individuals would react differently to benzene exposure, and that although the smell was intense and some may experience varying effects, it was only a nuisance. To this day, I hate that word. It was only a nuisance, nothing to worry about, even for me as a stage 4 breast cancer survivor. This would later be reiterated by the state of Michigan. By the third day, the cleanup preparation was underway. Roads were shut, monitoring was becoming visible, pumper trucks, transfer trucks, truckloads of berm were arriving, fire trucks, ambulances were posted at primary cleanup locations, helicopters circled above nonstop, and a sea of Enbridge and EPA trucks were vying for parking places anywhere they could, private property or not. From the beginning, the Ceresco Dam area served as a key cleanup location. The road leading to our residential driveway was closed to traffic early on the second day, and for more than 2.5 months, We went through a police barricade to access or leave our driveway, stopping each time to be identified and let through. Our visitors and our family members were typically denied access because, as I was told, it was simply too dangerous to allow them access. Workers in hazmat suits, fire trucks, and an ambulance parked across from my driveway seemed to support that statement. Within a few days of the spill, a water ban was posted by the local health department for residents within 200 feet of the Talmadge Creek and the Kalamazoo River. Bottled water was made available by Enbridge through community volunteer-based distribution sites until January 2011 when the ban was lifted. Wells in the area remain under a sampling program, and we're told that program is going to last for several years to come. Both our business and our residential wells are in that program and are currently tested on a quarterly basis by Superior, a company contracted and paid for by Enbridge. To date, we do not use any water at our business, not even for the restroom. Local drilling companies, have expressed extreme concerns of probable contamination of our well, considering this is a 20-foot shallow located behind the business and within 20 foot of the river. The jury is still out on the benefit of drilling a deeper well, because although most of the river is a gaining river, meaning that everything flows into the river, behind our business, the river actually flows away into the aquifer. At our home, our well is a newer, deeper well, but we still do not use water for drinking or cooking. During the first few days after the spill, we tried to keep our business open. The smell was intense, but we kept everything closed and ran the air and tried to make the best of a horrible situation. 2 weeks after the spill, our business was effectively shut down when the public was no longer able to access our business because the roads were closed. Enbridge had started cleanup on the top of the dam, moving pumper trucks and vacuum hoses onto our property without any notice or notification, shutting us down. When we asked Enbridge why they had done this without communication, we were told that because of the state of emergency, they could do whatever they needed to do for the cleanup. A day later came the staging area with tents, tables, chairs for workers to take breaks, a stockpile of cleanup supplies, and a decontamination pad and pool were placed at the top of a river next to our warehouse building. Along with this came workers, including the locally notorious white bus, which we would learn later contained illegal immigrants from Mexico. Our business would remain closed for approximately 11 weeks. With an already horrific Michigan economy, this was devastating to our business. And the perception of, quote, smelly carpet continues to impact our business today. My husband and I have had many conversations about evacuations. And while evacuations were mandatory in some areas, known as the red zone or ground zero, no one from our community was advised to leave. It was offered as if you were not comfortable, you could, but it wasn't advised. A few neighbors with chronic health issues did move to a hotel for a couple of weeks of their own accord. But with the influx of workers, local hotels were full, and residents were forced to go 30 to 40 miles to find a vacancy. Daily schedules of work, school, family obligations, as well as out-of-pocket expenses prohibited many of us from evacuating. For us, those were all valid considerations, as well as the need to monitor and protect our properties, which now were inundated with strangers and cleanup equipment. Our lives changed on July 25 on so many levels, from concerns of long-term health, decreased property values, or even property contamination, to simple things like normalcy and privacy. Our pool is a natural gathering place for our family and friends, and we've not had use for 2 summers now. Last year, the air quality, sheen on the top of our pool water, helicopters circling overhead, and workers on our riverbank prevented use. This year, we didn't even open it because those same things exist. The deer, turkey, and other wildlife that once strolled our backyard have left, as well as the frogs, turtles, ducks, and fish in our river. This year we saw a few turtles, but none of the other wildlife have returned. Our once beautiful river remains closed and under a no-contact order. Weeks after the spill, we would learn from EPA that the Michigan spill happened some 13 hours before it was discovered by area first responders and reported to PHMSA. The 30-inch pipeline carries about 8 million gallons of oil daily from Canada to refineries in Detroit, Toledo, and on to Serenale, Canada. The investigation by the NTSB continues today. In September 2010, testimony in a congressional hearing by Enbridge questioned which of the several MSDS sheets were correct. And it was discovered that, well then, 840,000 gallons of tar sand oil, not the raw crude originally thought to be in the pipeline, was what had actually spilled in my backyard. We wonder if the NTSB's report will show cause to the known problems in the pipeline, the age of the pipeline, or even the recent change to a much more corrosive that is now being transported in its line. 18 months later, the cleanup continues. We're told by EPA that a large portion of oil spilled has been collected, but there are areas of significant submerged oil totaling about 200 acres, and one of those areas lies immediately behind my business property. Mark Bruno, EPA, publicly stated that they have never dealt with a tar sand oil spill of this size in fresh water and are writing the book on how to clean it up as they go along. With winter fast approaching, workers have been wrapping up many aspects of the cleanup, including removal of booms by my business and my home, along with the air monitoring canister. And Enbridge's proposed work is currently being reviewed by EPA when they resume in the spring. Cleanup crews were given Labor Day weekend off. I live it 24/7. It was a beautiful weekend, warm and sunny. I worked the carpet store Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, going home each day with a horrific headache. On Saturday, September 3rd, I called the 1-800 number to inform Enbridge that the oil sheen was significant. It was from the boom in the center of the river to the edge of my shoreline. And the smell was intolerable. It was almost to the point of being August of September of last year. It was that intense. They informed me that most of the workers had been sent home for the holiday, and CTEC, Enbridge's contractor, were not collecting daily data, but they would come out and do an air sampling. 14 months after the spill, and with their EPA reporting that most of the oil's been collected, they detected levels. I'm sorry. Enbridge dismisses these as low levels, but 14 months later, they still are detectable. Some 16 months have passed, and we still hear the roar of airboats, helicopters circling overhead, and the buzz of workers, and realize we will for several months to come, or several summers to come, excuse me. More than 12 families have moved from just our small neighborhood. Enbridge has purchased approximately 160 homes along Talmadge Creek and the 40-mile impacted stretch of the river, leaving a number of empty homes in our neighborhoods. With residents continue to report health effects, the uncertainty of long-term health is a valid concern. There certainly are no studies of tar sand oil and its effects on health, wildlife, or even our ecosystem. And no one can assure me that this will not affect my cancer status or that my grandson will not suffer effects in the future. I also fear Enbridge will not be able to successfully clean up our river and will leave behind much more than they should. Late yesterday afternoon, EPA's website posted 1.1 million gallons collected. We have seen numbers where they have reported the amount of oil collected. We've seen numbers where they report the amount of liquid collected. And so I find great concern with Enbridge's position that they are standing by their initial oil spill numbers and that this 1.1 contains other contaminants and not just the oil that they spilled. I hope pipeline companies are held to a higher reporting standards, more timely and more accurate. Our first responders are our heroes. They're our local neighbors, sons, brothers, fathers. They need to know how to protect us in the early hours of these spills. I also hope that legislators in the industry utilize what they have learned from the Michigan spill so no other community is faced with the disasters we were. I will continue to focus on this long-term health study and hope our local, state, and federal officials will help us secure one. If they don't, I promise you, we as residents will make it happen. I also pray that one day we will be able to look at our Kalamazoo River, we'll be able to fish in our Kalamazoo River, and my grandson will once again be able to throw his fishing pole in and catch that little tiny fish and giggle. Thank you so much for this opportunity.